Off the top of your head, can you name a true luxury chronograph? Probably thinking of the Daytona, but that's a racing watch. It's a tool watch made for timing races. Something like the Speedmaster, well, that's also racing watch and to a degree pilot's watch as well. Maybe something high-end like Breitling TED 20, but that's a pilot's watch. IWC Pilot says it in the name, pilot's watch. They're all sort of purposeful tool watches, at least in their original inception. But there is one brand that makes a really good luxury chronograph. Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso, and I'd like to give a big thanks right away to Timepiece 360 in Dubai for lending in the watch we're going to be looking at today, and that is the Breitling Premier B01 for Bentley. In the 1940s, Bentley was being reinvented as a luxury car after its racing days of the 20s and 30s. Meanwhile, Willie Breitling had recognized the need for escapism at such a troubled time and created the original Premier line as a dedicated luxury watch separate from his more tool-oriented chronomat collection. And this is what formed the basis for the reborn Premier launched in 2018. Both brands have managed to bridge the gap between luxury and performance in the last 100 years, offering maximum opulence without being outmatched by competitors on a technical front. And while Breitling and Bentley have been partnering since 2003, the ultimate expression of that relationship was released in 2019 to celebrate Bentley's 100th birthday, with the Breitling Premier for Bentley Centenary. Unlike past Breitling for Bentley models, which were their own collection, this is a limited edition of Breitling's 42mm Premier B01, and in this case they've graced it with an unvarnished burl wood dial meant to evoke Bentley's own wooden veneers on their dashboards. On the wrist, the Premier benefits from CEO George Kern's mission to rehabilitate the stereotype of Breitling only making big watches. At 42mm but with relatively short lugs, it fits easily on most wrists, and the 13mm height will allow it to slip under most jackets and shirt sleeves. The high polish bracelet is extremely comfortable and the links can be removed with screws. For more precise sizing, the clasp also features micro adjustment points, ensuring you get the perfect fit. It also requires 2 stages to open, making it much more secure than a conventional friction fit. But the beauty of the Premier is its versatility. With this Bentley Edition's wooden dial, it lets it further tread the line between casual and formal, and its 100-meter water resistance makes it a perfect companion for the beach and pool. So it is quite literally a beach to boardroom watch and feels comfortable anywhere in between. On the inside is Breitling's flagship calibre, the B01. Originally released in 2012 in the chronomat, the B01 has been the backbone of Breitling's in-house calibers and even powers Tudor's Black Bay Chrono. Like all modern Breitlings, it's chronometer certified, in addition to featuring a 2-register chronograph operated via vertical clutch and column wheel, with every use of the chronograph feeling like a perfect shift on a manual transmission. The B01 provides noticeable feedback as you wind it towards its 70-hour power reserve, and pulling the crown out further leads you to a quick set date and hacking seconds for precise time setting. Unlike past Breitling for Bentley models where co-branding and additional details were turned up to 11, this Centenary edition is relatively discreet in its execution, allowing you to soak it in as a whole. The plaque on the side not only says Bentley, but it's also engine turned to match the dashboard of Bentley spec'd with the aluminum trim. This type of finish also draws a parallel to the engine turning found on watch movements, another nod to the synergies of the two brands. Then of course there's the dial itself. Obviously it's made of wood, but every dial has its own pattern and imperfections on it, meaning that each unit of this limited edition of 1,000 pieces is in fact unique in its appearance. Aside from the Bentley touches, the Premier line also boasts statuesque, deco-inspired indices and a deeply knurled crown proudly wearing the Breitling B logo. Meanwhile, the contrasting registers in black are the first indication that this Breitling holds a manufacturer caliber, while other Valjoux 7750 equipped Premiers have matching sub-registers. It may have taken them 16 years to achieve it, but this is the ultimate expression of the similarities between Breitling and Bentley. Two brands that had their origins in performance but managed to transition into luxury without compromising their technical capacity. With the W12 in the Bentley and the B01 in the Premier, Neither will be embarrassed next to a more focused competitor, while both brands can offer versatility and luxury without a hint of compromise. So that's my thoughts on the Breitling for Bentley Premier B01. And this was a great watch to handle for so many reasons. First and foremost, because it looks so distinctive with that wooden dial, but also even just on a conceptual level. You know, this is a proper luxury watch through and through, designed from the beginning, both when the collection was first conceived back in the 40s to its re-edition in the last few years. It stays completely true to that concept of just being an all-out luxury chronograph. But before we get too far into that, we need to talk about the 3 positives and negatives of this watch. And the first thing I have to highlight, of course, is that insane wooden dial. Wooden dials were something that were very popular around sort of the 70s and 80s, but then they sort of faded off. They became very dated. It wasn't something that a lot of people really wanted to see. But I love how they've integrated this because, especially being a Bentley edition, nothing screams luxury more like well-executed wood paneling on the inside of a car. And they've managed to bring that over in the case of the Premier because it's so nice. And what I like is that it's unfinished, it's unvarnished, and also it's completely unique. Every single one of the 1,000 pieces of this Breitling for Bentley edition are going to be slightly different. And I think that really adds something special to it. When you're talking about limited editions, it's similar to when they do meteorite dials that are all slightly different. It makes it feel that much more exclusive. There may be 1,000 pieces of this, but you'll have the only one that has this exact pattern of the wood. And that's a really good way to make a limited edition even more special. The second positive to this watch is its versatility. Because it was designed from the onset as a luxury watch, you can tell they also thought about this being someone's only luxury watch. So the fact that it has the 100-meter water resistance means you don't need to worry too much about, getting it wet. The fact that it has a date keeps it practical. The fact that it has a 70-hour power reserve means you don't need to bother about winding it. If it's part of a collection, you can let it go for the weekend and then put it back on and start your week again. And because it has a sort of dressy look to it, you can put it on a leather strap or even just on the bracelet, wear it with a suit, and it's perfect for business and for work as well. It's interesting that while made as a luxury watch, not with utility in mind, they ended up making a watch that you can use for so many things. And that's a real positive. And then the last thing I like about this particular model is the subtle co-branding. It's not in your face about being the Bentley edition. Now, Breitling has partnered with Bentley since 2003, so they've had a lot of time to perfect the formula. But if you know anything about how this partnership has gone, for the first 10, 15 odd years, they were making a specific collection called Breitling for Bentley, and it seemed very cheesy, very overstyled. In my opinion, they didn't really execute well. They were making the same sort of mistakes that Roger Dubuis makes with its Lamborghini watches, that Gerard Perregaux and Panerai made with their Ferrari watches. They were putting too much of the branding in there, too much over-the-top styling, versus really understanding the brand and the values that they overlap with. One thing I like about this partnership, and it probably is a result of them being together for 17 years, is that their values match so well. They're both essentially luxury products, not performance products. In the same way that, yes, a Bentley will still go quickly, but it's not trying to be a Ferrari. A Bentley Continental GT may have a ton of power, but it's not going to compare to a Ferrari in terms of performance, but it's not trying to. And that, I feel, is what the Premier collection is specifically. It's something that you can do full luxury, you can do casual, you can do active, but in comfort and in style. And that's something that I think is really reflected in the Bentley brand as well as the Breitling brand and especially the Premier line. And I feel that synergy is present within this watch. But that being said, of course, no watch is perfect, and this one isn't either. The first disadvantage is the 30-minute counter. Now, I've had this same movement with a 45-minute counter, and I didn't find that much more useful either. In my opinion, any chronograph that can't measure more than an hour isn't any more useful than just having a watch with a dive bezel. At the end of the day, unless you're measuring something that needs a lot of precision in terms of the seconds, most things that we measure can easily be measured just by looking at what time something started. People like lawyers and consultants that bill per hour will probably end up having to use their phone versus using their chronograph in order to measure how much time they've been working. So, in my opinion, I would have liked to see them do a similar sort of solution like they have on the Omegas, where it's still the 2-register layout, because I think that's a lot more elegant, but with hours and minutes on the same register. The second disadvantage is the high polish. Now, that's something that can easily be mitigated by changing it onto a strap, But by having a high polished bracelet and high polished case, it does mean that the watch does stand out a little bit too much. It means that if it gets scratched, you can see it a lot easier. In my opinion, I think it would have been better if they at least had some alternating finish, something to dull it down a little bit. But at the end of the day, that is more of a preference. There are some people who love a high polished watch, and it does give it an air of class. That means if you're wearing this watch on the more formal side, you can probably still keep the bracelet on without it looking too out of place. And then the last disadvantage, and unfortunately this isn't one I can highlight with macros because this particular example had factory stickers on it, so I couldn't get good shots of it. In my opinion, the B01 is not the best looking movement. I think that Tudor makes a better job of it when they put it in the Black Bay Chrono, but of course that's covered up. And I think that Breitling does a better job of it in their B09, which is the manual wind variant of this. They have a much nicer Côte de Genève pattern on it, whereas this, it's got a very basic looking graining on the rotor. In my view, it doesn't do justice to the Côte de Genève that's right under the rotor, and it doesn't do justice to the movement as well. This is a great movement. It's a modern movement that was relatively ahead of its time when it was first released. And especially now that Breitling is starting to put more display casebacks in their watches, I think it deserves to be better decorated. But in any case, overall, I think this is a great watch. It's a phenomenal all-rounder. If I could do my whole collection over again, especially considering some of the pre-owned prices on these, I would consider going with this as a first watch because it gives you so much. It probably wouldn't compel you to need to get another watch anytime soon, so it means you could really build a proper luxury collection without having to buy on the regular. And like I said, there's some great value out there on the pre-owned and even on new to a degree. But let's talk about that value. So on the bracelet, this limited edition of 1,000 pieces costs $10,500, which is more expensive than you would pay for a regular Breitling Premier. However, you do need to consider both the limited edition and, more importantly, the fact this does have a materially different dial, which would have been much more difficult to engineer and to get right. It's not like they just picked another color. However, on the pre-owned market is where it really gets interesting because you can find one of these on the bracelet for as little as $6,000 US up to about $9,000 US. So with those sorts of deals out there, you can definitely get a lot of value. And when you compare it to a niche where really there's not really a lot of focused luxury chronographs, especially in the sub $20,000 range, especially in the non-precious metal range, you can really get a lot of value because if you consider what are this watch's competitors, maybe the Omega Deville Chrono, but that, in my opinion, while a very accomplished watch and a better value, arguably, in terms of retail and maybe pre-owned, it doesn't really have anywhere near as much character as this. And then if you push for something like the IWC Portuguese chronograph, that's already starting to tread the sort of dress watch territory. It's a lot less of an all-rounder, only 30 meters water resistance. Again, you're making a few more compromises, whereas with the Premier for Bentley, you're really not making a lot of compromises. So I think this is a great all-rounder, a great luxury watch, and a great demonstration of when you just forget about trying to be a tool watch, which is largely what's popular these days, you know, things like Submariners, Speedies, Daytonas, etc. When you focus on just being a luxury watch, a luxury chronograph, it's a great example of the breed in my opinion. But in any case, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this watch? What do you think of Breitling's association with Bentley? And what do you think of the concept of a luxury chronograph? Would you prefer that, or would you prefer something that's a little bit more tool-oriented, a little bit more purpose-built? I'd love to know your opinions in the comments below. And of course, another big thanks to Timepiece 360 in Dubai for lending in this watch. Make sure you check out their links in the description below. And of course, if you liked this video, please do like it and share it. If you want to see more of the infographics and pictures featured in this video, make sure you follow me on Instagram @Shaluso. And if you want to keep seeing new watch videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell as well so you can know when my next video is up. In any case, thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.